What is up, guys? So Crisis on Infinite Earths just ended, and obviously one thing that happened in the Crisis was the creation of the new multiverse. Oliver created the new multiverse, and he merged Earth 1, Earth 38, and the Black Lightning universe into Earth Prime, which is what we're seeing now. Aside from the 5th episode of Crisis on Infinite Earths, these two episodes that recently came out, Batwoman Season 1, Episode 10, and Supergirl Season 5, Episode 10, are the first ever episodes of the Arrowverse to take place on Earth Prime. Through these two episodes, we learned quite a bit of things about Earth Prime, about the Arrowverse going forward, and a lot of things about their respective shows. Those things I'm not really going to go over as much, and I'm also not going to be reviewing these episodes because I don't really think people are interested. Like my previous reviews for Batwoman and Supergirl, they didn't really get very many views, so what is the point? And also, I'm not really interested in reviewing them. Instead, I want to go over certain changes that they retcon through these episodes and certain things about Earth Prime specifically that we didn't previously know, and maybe some details about the episode itself. With that in mind, let's begin with Batwoman, which isn't going to be mentioned as much in this video as Supergirl, since Supergirl certainly had a lot of things. So in the episode, there's this storyline of this cyber terrorist attacking Gotham City, and her motivation ended up being that she wasn't represented in any TV shows or movies, which I gotta say, I did skim through the episode a bit, and honestly, there might be a couple things I missed. I don't think there were, but for this specifically, is this really what it was? Was this really her motivation, that she wasn't represented on TV shows and movies? I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous, and it really goes to show how self-absorbed this show is. It thinks it's so important that it's stopping certain people with these motivations, or it's helping society or fixing society or whatever. Anyway, this isn't a review. I'm not going to go into that right now. The reason I mention that is because it leads to Batwoman coming out as a lesbian, which isn't important. What is important is the cover that we see with this, as there are significant changes either to Earth Prime or to just the world as a whole that I think I should mention in this video. One pretty big thing that you can notice here is that this whole interview was conducted by Kara Danvers, which obviously is something that could not have happened in the old Earth since she was not from the same Earth as Batwoman, and it goes to show how they can really implement all these TV shows and characters being on the same universe going forward. Probably the biggest change to the entire world that we learned in this episode isn't really about Batwoman at all, it's about the Flash. As you see in the top right corner of this image, it says S.T.A.R treatment touring the incredible facilities at S.T.A.R Labs. Now, I'm guessing this will be followed up upon in the next episode of The Flash, but this is pretty interesting. In Earth 1, before the crisis happened, S.T.A.R Labs was a disgraced company as it built a particle accelerator that exploded, and it killed a bunch of people, as well as created metahumans. After that, they shut down every single facility across the country, except for the one in Central City, and that was S.T.A.R Labs. It wasn't really a lot of people working there. It was really just the HQ for Team Flash, and that was it. They also owned this hull that they used in the previous world as well during Invasion, but that was it. That was the entirety of S.T.A.R Labs. It was a discreet company that didn't really have very many employees, and they didn't really do very much. However, in this new world, it's drastically different and seems like it's a lot better. Based off this headline, since it says the incredible facilities, which is not one, but a plural amount of facilities at S.T.A.R Labs, it seems like the S.T.A.R Labs will be closer to the DC Comics version of S.T.A.R Labs, which is not the HQ of Team Flash, but this countrywide company which creates the most cutting-edge technology on the planet. I'm guessing that's what S.T.A.R Labs will be going forward, but Team Flash will probably still be working out of there, as we saw in Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 5. They're still working out of there, but aside from Central City, as well as the Hall of Justice, every S.T.A.R Labs facility will be, I think, independent from the Flash and independent from the Justice League, and will just be what they are in the comics. But I do think this is interesting, since it's a pretty big change going from a disgraced company to a revered one, as you could see in this article, and I'm guessing that's what they're doing. They're making it closer to the comics. Going forward, every show basically can have a S.T.A.R Labs, as it can exist in every city. Star City, Central City, obviously Gotham City, National City, as well as even Metropolis. It can exist in every show, so maybe they're just going to keep on visiting these other facilities of S.T.A.R Labs in these different cities. But then there's Supergirl Season 5, Episode 10, the first episode of Supergirl ever to take place on Earth Prime, the same universe as Arrow, The Flash, Legend of Tomorrow, Batwoman, and Black Lightning, which obviously is interesting. Another thing that we didn't really learn in this episode, but is definitely focused on, is that Lex Luthor is now the leader of the DEO and considered a hero to the world, which I do think is interesting. And if this wasn't a part of the Crisis Aftermath, I probably wouldn't be all that excited for the rest of the episode. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm legitimately excited, but I'm at least interested because Lex Luthor is a disappearing. So pretty early on into the episode, we learned something pretty big, something that was mentioned in the trailer for the next episode of The Flash by Cisco, and that's that the multiverse is gone, which is contrary to what we see at the end of Part 5 of Crisis, which is that the multiverse is still around. There's Earth 9, Earth 21, Earth 12, Earth 96, and so on and so forth. There are other universes in the multiverse. However, it does seem like it's different from the last multiverse. In the last multiverse, the universes were affected, or they were different by their vibrational frequency. They existed in the same place in the same time, but they vibrated at a different speed, which separated them. However, this time around, that's not what separates each multiverse, as Brainiac 5 says that there's only one universe left, and there's no other universe that vibrates at a different frequency, which just means that they can't detect the other universes. It doesn't mean that they don't exist. It just means that they can't detect them because there's some other reason for their existence. There's some other reason why the multiverse is alive and the multiverse is around, and why these universes are separate now in the new multiverse that isn't the different vibrational frequencies, which is why they say there's no multiverse left. There's only one more universe, and there's nothing they can do about it, which I'm guessing means that the multiverse will probably not be visited again, at least for a very long time, maybe even to the next crossover, or maybe even never. Like, maybe these TV shows and movies will never connect anymore, as they are completely separate, still existing in the same multiverse, but without access to each other, which is, I think, a plausibility, since the Crisis could have been the finale to the multiverse, like connecting with each other, much like the original Crisis was the actual finale to the multiverse. With that in mind, though, I think this is an interesting thing that they can explore in basically every show, but it does seem mainly probably Supergirl and The Flash. However, while the new multiverse is unable to connect with each other, the old multiverse obviously was able to, and this is where we see certain doppelgangers from the old multiverse in this universe, somehow, some way. Doppelgangers of Brainiac 5, including one which is female, I'm guessing from like some sort of Earth 12, not Earth 12 in the Arrowverse, as that was not a gender-bent universe. We could tell from Harrison Wolfgang Wells, who is male, but in the comics, it was a gender-bent universe, Earth 12, so I'm guessing it was some sort of version of that back in the old multiverse. But there's that one, there's this shy one, turns out to be evil, this one who wears the Legion belt, and that's really the only difference I can ascertain from this whole thing. But these are versions of Brainiac 5 from the old multiverse who somehow, some ways survived. Also doppelgangers of the Dark Kryptonians of Season 3, the owner of this bar, some sort of other aliens and people, as well as even a Batwoman, maybe some sort of old multiverse version of Alice. All of these characters somehow, some way made their way to Earth Prime and survived the destruction of their universes, which isn't really fully explained in the episode. It is kind of explained by saying that they go through some sort of wormhole. Well, obviously, this is only the first episode. We don't really know where all these characters came from, and I'm sure we're going to learn later in the season, but I'm not going to talk about that anymore because I don't really know what's going on with that. But what I will talk about is the storyline this created with Brainiac 5. Again, this isn't really a review, but I did really enjoy this. I just want to say I really enjoy this because I like Brainiac 5 a lot, and I like it when he gets a focus in an episode. At this point, he is the second best character on the show, just behind Lex Luthor, but I will say that I really, really like what they did here with the character. Every change they made, every character development they gave to Brainiac in this episode, I really, really liked, and I really like where they're going forward with the character, and I hope it leads to something. With Brainiac 5, in the episode, he was given this storyline of, it turns out he has these personality inhibitors, which when he turns them off, he becomes a little bit more calculating and more a part of what they call the big brain or whatever, and he gets his initial design, the green skin, the yellow hair, and the purple suit, which I think is so much better. A lot of people complain about his original design, including myself, because while it didn't look bad necessarily, it just doesn't make any sense why he's blue, because he's green in the comics. Why make him blue? His whole color scheme of green skin, yellow hair, and a purple suit was changed to blue skin, kind of like a whitish hair, as well as a blue suit. It just didn't make any sense, and I think that it's a lot less colorful, so I'm really glad that they went against that here, and they retconned it, or they didn't really retcon it, they changed it so that he has his initial and original comic book design of yellow hair, green skin, and this purple suit, which I do think they could have done off screen. Because of the retcon, they could have just said this is what Brainiac 5 has always looked like on this planet, but they gave it a storyline either way, which is fine. I mean, I don't really mind either way, but I do really like this new design. But that's definitely something that they changed with Earth Prime, because it would not have happened at all if these Brainiac 5s didn't come to this or Earth, which would not have happened if not for the Crisis. So those are basically all the retcons. There was on Batwoman, I didn't mention this, but Alice didn't know who Batwoman was anymore, which I thought was going to mean something, but it didn't because she learned later in the episode, so I didn't even mention that. There was also Alice appearing in the end from some sort of other universe or other universe in the old multiverse, which is going to be significant, but really from Batwoman, it was mainly the image, the cover of Kara Danvers and S.T.A.R. Labs that meant something, and on Supergirl, it was more in Crisis with Lex Luthor and things like that, but Brainiac 5 and his whole storyline was certainly a very significant retcon. Now, this is not going to be a retcon, but one thing that was mentioned in episode 10 of Supergirl is something that might be either setting up the next crossover or it could just be some sort of hint to the larger DC universe, and that's the anti-life equation. In the comics, and basically every other interpretation of the character, the anti-life equation is the motivation of Darkseid. He wants to seek it out so that he can get rid of free will in the universe so he can rule it all. That's Darkseid's main motivation, and the fact that they just mentioned the anti-life equation in the Arrowverse for the first time ever, right as the crossover ends, I think it's a little bit too much of a coincidence, especially because Lex Luthor later mentions or says the word apocalypse, which I'm not going to say is a rare word or anything. It is a common word to refer to the end of times, but also in a superhero show, it makes sense to say it a lot. But the fact that they said the anti-life equation and Apocalypse, which is the planet the Darkseid is from and the planet he rules, again, I think that's too much of a coincidence. So either it's just a tease, or maybe the next crossover, or maybe sometime in the future, we're going to be seeing Darkseid, which I think could be cool. I mean, I do think the CGI would be very expensive for the Arrowverse, and I don't really think they could pull it off on the low budgets they have, but maybe they could do some practical effects, or maybe they could do it on HBO Max or something, but at least there's some sort of tease to the anti-life equation, to Apocalypse, which wasn't really a tease to Apocalypse, but again, coincidence. So Darkseid teases, that's really, really cool in my opinion. Oh, and I guess if you're wondering what I thought about these episodes, just for a very short review, hated the Batwoman episode. Well, I mean, maybe not hated it, but I couldn't get through it. Like I said, I skipped through a lot of it. Honestly, I might have missed something, but I tried to look it up. I don't think there were any retcons I missed. But yeah, I couldn't really get through the Batwoman episode. However, the Supergirl episode, like I said, really liked the Brainiac 5 storyline, liked Lex Luthor, and the fact that he has a lot of screen time, and also all the changes to the universe and the world. It's really interesting to watch. So I did like the Supergirl episode quite a bit, but not the Batwoman episode. But that's basically it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below about everything I talked about. And if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.